Hey everyone, Aimer here with another Mission Impossible episode review. This time I'm reviewing Season 3, Episode 10, which is called The Bargain. As I just noticed that, oh, hi Shadow, how are you? Okay, so we've got Shadow the Cat as our special guest star again. Just noticed her now. So anyway, Jim goes to a roller skating rink's office for instructions. Remember roller rinks? I had a lot of fun in roller rinks when I was younger. The mission. A deal is being made between syndicate man Frank Layton and General Ernesto Neyron, former leader of the nation of Surinanka, to put Neyron back in power in exchange for giving the syndicate gambling and other rights in the country. And the IMF must stop them. So the IMF discussed some of the gadgetry they're going to create and use, including special lamps, videos, and mirrors. It's the usual team this time. And they head down to Neyron's estate near Miami, where he and Layton are arguing over his need for more money and guns for his insurrection. Jim and Rollin check into the hotel, which Layton runs on behalf of the syndicate. Rollin comes in as a mysterious rich recluse named John Arlington Smith. And Jim is his assistant Cooper. Jim tells the hotel manager to clear a path for Smith to come in and make sure the top 2 floors are empty. Rollin makes sure the hotel manager catches a glimpse of his disguised face as he heads up. Jim starts asking many pointed questions about the hotel's finances and gives Layton a very lucrative offer to buy the hotel, which Layton flatly refuses. But Jim subtly warns him to reconsider. Layton is really surprised at how brazen Jim is about his offer, but his assistant says he must know what he's doing, and Smith must have the resources to take on even the syndicate if he likes. The other 3 come to Neyron's estate as new prospective chef staff, and Barney's bouillabaisse is excellent, so they're hired. Neyron is very, very particular about his food. Cinnamon switches the cards in Neyron's sitting room with specially prepared ones. Barney and Willie change up some of the fuses and set up a projector into the sitting room, while Cinnamon sprays the table with something that is able to lift writing such as signatures onto special paper so it can be transferred. Barney is fortunately able to prevent the patrol guards from searching the kitchen while Willie finishes up his work. Layton's staff intercepts some of Smith's correspondence to Europe, which indicates that he's moving in on Caribbean interests. A newspaper picture indicates that Smith is really ultra-wealthy tycoon Charles Carson. Layton meets with Neyron to get his contract signed and hands over negotiable bonds, which Neyron puts in his safe, but says he wants cash instead, which Layton says he'll get for him in the morning. Barney uses a zoom camera to get the safe's combination. Rollin gives Jim a briefcase that can inflate back and forth into a doctor's bag, while Barney sets up a relay that will allow him to open and close the safe remotely. Cinnamon lifts Neyron's signature from the table and it's transferred onto a different contract. Interestingly enough, if you look closely, you'll see that this is something from the Screen Actors Guild. It mentions television rights and things like that, so they just picked up a contract that they had lying around and used that, hoping nobody would notice. Barney also injects a drug into Neyron's egg to give him a massive headache and some disorientation, for which his doctor prescribes some pills. Layton has one of his men put a bug in Smith's room, which Jim and Rollin find quite easily. The next morning, Jim goes to the bank earlier than usual, which they open especially for him, and then he returns to the hotel. On the way up, he attaches something to the flap above the elevator. For Layton's benefit, Jim and Rollin have a discussion about how everything is all set, and it's great that Layton thinks they're actually trying to buy the hotel and hasn't caught on to their real target. While Barney is asking Neyron about his breakfast, Willie pipes in the sound of Jim's voice. A lamp is activated, which allows Neyron to see turned-over cards, which of course goes away when the guard comes in to have a look. And the phone rings, which Barney says he can't hear, all of which makes Neyron a frustrated wreck. When Neyron's chief comes to the room, the phone rings again, and of course this time everyone can hear it, and Cinnamon tells him that Neyron's doctor is sending a specialist to see him. Layton's man Arnie follows Jim's taxi away from the hotel as Rollin and Smith heads down the elevator, taking the package that Jim left behind, which is a change of clothes, allowing him to exit the elevator as his normal self. Rollin has Smith paged, distracting Layton so that Rollin can get into his office. Arnie follows Jim to Neyron's estate, where he switches his briefcase into the doctor's bag and is admitted by maid Cinnamon. Jim says he has Van Delberg syndrome, Neyron that is, in exactly the same voice that Neyron heard earlier. which Jim says is part of the syndrome. People see things before they actually happen. Jim gives him a tranquilizer, which is actually a hallucinogen. On the way out, he's able to switch his doctor's bag for a briefcase left by Cinnamon and finds Arnie pointing a gun at him when he goes back to the cab. Roland is found in the office by Layton's men. They discover he's a federal agent tracking Carson and tells Layton to turn over all evidence of his dealings with Carson, who is known to be talking to Neyron about doing business in Surinanka. Layton says that Roland is way off base as Arnie returns with Jim and the contract he has with Neyron's signature. Roland takes the contract as evidence and takes Jim into custody, with Layton asking for his help to get his bonds back. Roland basically laughs at him, telling him to go get them himself, and Layton decides to go and do just that. Meanwhile, Neyron starts to feel the effects of the drug, and the room starts to go weird on him. Barney and Willie use the tape and projector to make Neyron hear footsteps towards the room and an image of Layton demanding his bonds, saying he knows about the deal with Carson, and opens the safe. The image of Layton finds the safe empty and takes a shot at Neyron, who flinches from it, but then realizes it's just another precognition. Layton arrives shortly thereafter. Jim calls the cops to report what's about to happen. Layton goes into the study, and the scene plays out predictably, with Neyron saying he doesn't know anything about Carson, Barney remotely opening the safe and showing both men that it's empty, and Neyron shoots Layton as the IMF make their exit. Mission accomplished. I'm going to give this episode a grade of C. I think I originally had it at more of a C minus, but I've pushed it up a couple of notches. Couple of reasons. Let's start with the good. The gadgetry is really, really nice. Especially, I really like the way the IMF lifted the signature of Neyron signing one thing and being able to transfer it on another. That was pretty cool, especially visually. And normally I complain about when you have episodes where there's heavy use of spookery to kind of, it's often used as padding, and it can be a very, very lazy kind of writing trope to kind of cover up the fact that there's not a whole lot of plot. Here, it's not too bad. They try and make it make sense, and it's not just focused in one direction. In a lot of episodes, everything is focused towards one person, the target of the episode, to just try and convince them to do something that they ordinarily wouldn't do or something like that. Here, they're obviously putting all the spookery on Neyron, but they're working the other angle with Frank Layton as well. So it makes more sense in this episode, and it's not really, done for the usual reasons of just, like I said, lazy writing. The guest stars are good. Warren Stevens, who we've seen before in The Slave. Albert Paulson, we've already seen him a couple of times, I think, and we'll see him more over the coming seasons as well. They were good. I just really wish that Albert Paulson, we know what he's capable of. I just wish he was more than what he was in this episode, which is just being a cantankerous, angry loudmouth. And overall, I wouldn't say that, despite the fact that they did bring a lot of gadgetry and whatnot to bear, the villains are kind of on the lame and schmucky side for me. Not as intelligent as they really do think. At least, certainly not on the mob side, I wouldn't say. Neyron gets tricked pretty, in a pretty effective fashion, and, the team earns their win on that side. But again, I wouldn't say that there's as much to it as there is in several other episodes. The not so good. I really, the pacing of this episode was okay, but I just felt it was really kind of flat. Like a lot of the times, a good episode should kind of build, towards the end, or at least kind of go in little dips and peaks and valleys. In this one, I just felt that this episode took a while to get going, and then it just kind of coasted. I don't know what made me feel that way, but I didn't really feel a lot of highs and lows, and the ending. The ending kind of became a little bit on the predictable side. Certainly in terms of the plot, it is a very, very standard separate and mislead plot. You have two bad guys, who are working together, and the IMF just basically exploits the fact that, they are, while they are working together, they each have differing interests, and they use that to set the two sides against each other. So as far as plot goes, it's very, very ordinary, almost cookie cutter, I would call it. So that's not so good. The other thing that is not so good, I noticed with the teamwork is okay. It's certainly not bad, but this is by no means a Power of 5 episode, not even close. Everybody has a part to play. But one thing I noticed more than once is that you've got members who are standing around just watching other members do stuff. For example, in the hotel where Roland and Jim are looking for a bug, which they know is there, but they're just trying to find evidence of it. I don't even know why they bothered if they knew it was there. Jim is just kind of opening a wall plate with a screwdriver, and Roland's just watching him. When Cinnamon is testing the spray that she uses and the paper to lift up signatures off of Neyron's table, Barney's just standing there watching her. Willie's playing around with the fuses. Barney's just kind of watching him. And that is not the sign of a good episode. That's just, it just isn't. I don't want to belabor that point too much, but that's a real flaw in this episode I found. So, it's borderline padding when that happens. There is action going on, but it's really not being used effectively. And that is certainly why I can't give it a higher grade. Last point I'll make is that, the ending being as predictable as it was, it was kind of weird at the end where, Willie, and even before the final scene unfolds, Willie's dressed in a suit, in the kitchen. Cinnamon opens the door for Layton in her maid's outfit, but then, less than a minute later, she's changed into another dress and she's, hopped into the IMF van. Barney, the same thing. He's dressed in his chef's uniform and suddenly he's dressed in normal clothes a minute later. And then the IMF just kind of departs as the police pull up. Again, almost like, oh, well, we're done here. It's another day's work. And to me, it's kind of a sign that, there's nothing really special about the mission here. It's just kind of another day at the office, another kind of cookie cutter episode, and that's kind of a bit of a microcosm of that. Anyway, that's my review of this episode. Please like this video, please subscribe to my channel, and please leave your comments. I very much look forward to seeing more and more of those as we go. Thank you again, and I'll see you next time.